Okay, Michael J here. How you guys doing? Everybody doing well? Happy Saturday to y'all. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be. Wherever you may be. Okay, so listen, we're gonna start with. Anyways, I want to say first, love and peace to everyone, especially love and peace to Ukraine and Russia. Let's get this situation straightened out. And we're going to start off with a review. Sea Lord Mountbatten. And we're going to review the new premium Japanese, I believe it's a Tier 7. It's a cruiser. The Maya. That is correct. The Maya. Let me know what you think. Post in chat. And remember, Bob is your uncle. Right, Bob? Right, Michael. Chat, please, folks. Thank you very much.
Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we have the brand new Tier 7 Premium Japanese Heavy Cruiser Maya import to review for you guys today. As always, massive shout out to the channel's Patreons for making this review possible. I am not affiliated with nor supported by Wargaming in any way, shape, or form. So the generous donations from these Patreons make these reviews possible. So again, massive shout out to these guys. If you want to join Patreon, the link to that is in the description down below. It is the best place to support the channel besides watching the videos and streams. So the Maya has finally made her way into Warships PC, at least. I believe she's been on Blitz for some time, but now finally she is here. So the Maya is a real still historical ship. She was one of the Takao-class cruisers that were launched before the Second World War. We do have her sister in game with the Atago as well. And if you take a look at the Atago and take a look at the Maya here, there's quite a few differences, and there were quite a few differences between the two classes as the wars went on. They were both refit in separate ways. The Maya was refitted to be an AA cruiser, which is fairly ironic. She had her third turret removed later in the war to make way for more anti-aircraft guns. We'll talk about how effective those anti-aircraft guns are later in the video. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Maya's characteristics and her stats. We'll go through them, then I'll take you guys into a gameplay review section where I'll give her a score and talk about her quirks and features more. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the armor layouts, no big surprise here. It's a Japanese cruiser. She has a 16mm bow, 16mm stern, and bow and stern deck plating. Mid-deck armor is 29mm. Upper deck armor is 25. Her torpedo plating on the side is 25mm as well. You strip all of that away, you find her citadel, high, dry, and exposed, with 102mm of plating, which is the same as the Atago. So again, if you played the Atago, you know what to expect here. Or if you played any of the Japanese cruisers, you do know what to expect here as well. You have, of course, lots of places where you can get pinned by, well, many a ship. But if you do angle enough, that 102mm Citadel side armor, you can bounce, of course, a lot if you can angle correctly, if the shells do hit there while you're angled correctly. In terms of her HP, she gets 39,200 HP and 19% torpedo damage reduction. Just realized I have the flag zone. Let me go ahead and rip those off for you. There we go. Just the economic flag zone now. So 39,200 HP, that's actually only 800 HP less than the Atago at Tier 8. So pretty chunky cruiser there in terms of HP at Tier 7. Now her guns, she has 8 203mm guns. They reload in 16.5 seconds. They turn in 30 seconds. You have a maximum dispersion of 130 meters at 15.3 kilometers. Her HE shells, which again, this is a Japanese cruiser, so her HE shells are her highlight. They do a maximum damage of 3,000. They have a 17% chance of causing a fire on target. They can pin 34 millimeters of armor, which is more than you need at tier 7. And they come out the tubes at 840 meters a second.
May seem to have a little bit of an audio issue, folks. Here, I may have to straighten it out. Just hold on, folks.
Seconds. They reload in 120 seconds. They have a range of 8 kilometers, so 2 less kilometers than the Atago. But they have a maximum damage of 20,967. And they travel at 76 knots base. These are fast torpedoes that hit hard as hell. And again, we'll talk more about that in the gameplay section, but they are very nice. They do have less range. You know, you can't stealth torp like you can in the Atago. Not like the Atago can, of course, stealth torp for days, but she can do it by a very thin margin. But you can't do that here. But again, that 76 knot speed and that 20,000 maximum damage is very, very nice. Now, they are detected by 2.5 kilometers, but again, these things are moving at 76 knots, so it's not like they'll see them. They won't be able to do too much, but they'll be able to see them. She does get 1 rack of depth charges here in the back. I thought I was going blind on stream when I couldn't find them earlier. They're right here. Not too much there. But they do a maximum damage of 4,600. You get 2 charges, 9 bombs in a charge, and they reload in 40 seconds. With the changes coming to depth charges and such, I won't get too much into those. A defense, so you get 27 of these 25mm guns. Then you get 39 of these 25mm guns in a triple mount. And then you get 12 of the 127s, like we mentioned earlier. Her AA range goes out to 5.8 kilometers, which actually isn't too bad. She has a continuous damage rating of 155, 1,330 damage via her flak shells, and then a 50% priority sector reinforcement. Maneuverability, the ship has a base top speed of 35.5 knots, a 780 meter turning circle radius, and a rudder shift time base of 10.1 seconds. Again, very nice rudder shift time here, just like the Atago. Concealment, she has a base range of 12.4 kilometers. For her box O gimmick, she does have a pretty big gimmick here too. You do see this. This is a main battery reload booster on a Japanese cruiser. Now, they gave this to the Hyuga when the Hyuga was released some time ago, but now they gave it to the Maya. Very interesting indeed. So you get a 50% boost to her main battery reload time for 15 seconds. It's enough to get 3 very fast salvos out. And on the 230mm guns, that does sound like a very promising proposition. Again, more on this later. Oh, it does recharge in 60 seconds too, so it's a pretty quick cooldown. You get 2 hills base. Yes, hills on a tier 7 heavy cruiser. That's pretty nice. Although sometimes that can be a sign of a fairly weak ship, but given the Maya's, well, unique armor geometry, again, if you've played Otago, you know, it is kind of needed. So it does regen 196 HP per second. It's active for 28 seconds and reloads in 80 seconds, and you get 2 charges of that. You get fighter. You do not get a choice of fighter or spotter like the Otago does. 60-second action time. You get 3 fighters. They fly around your ship in a 3-kilometer diameter. Reloads in 90 seconds. You get 3 charges of this base. You do get a choice of hydroacoustic search or DFAA. Hydro goes out to 5 kilometers. Detects ships at 5 kilometers as well. And you get torpedo detection at 3.5 kilometers. Subs are spotted at 5 kilometers if they aren't at maximum depth. If they're at maximum depth, it spots them at 2 kilometers. It's active for 100 seconds, reloads at 120 seconds, and again, 3 charges. And then you get a damage con that's active for 5 seconds and reloads in 60 seconds. Alright, so that's the Hugo's characteristics and stats. I'm going to go ahead, slap my commander back on here along with the build that I was running when I was playing her for this review, and I'll meet you guys right back here. Alrighty, so for the module build, I went with Main Armaments Mod 1 to keep the turrets in the fight. I went with Engine Room Protection to keep the rudders and the engine active for as long as possible. Then I went with Aiming Systems Mod 1 to rein in the dispersion a bit more. Then I went with Steering Gears Mod 1 for another 20% boost to the rudder shift time and to have an absolutely insane rudder shift time on this ship. Now for the commander build, I went with, well, I would first, if I was you, pick up Last Stand. Then I would go down and grab Demolition Expert for a better chance of causing a fire. Last Stand, by the way, if you don't know, this does make it to where when modules are knocked out, like your engine and your steering gears, it keeps working, but at 50% of their efficiency. But it's very nice to have, especially on this ship. Then I would go down and grab Adrenaline Rush. My first and only 4-point skill would be Concealment Expert. I would come back to the top, grab Grease the Gears, come back down, and then grab Survivability Expert. Then grab Superintendent after that for another charge of all your consumables, so Heal, Hydro, Fighter, and Reload Booster. Then finally, I would grab Enhanced Torpedo Explosive Charge, which gives you another 15% boost to your torpedo damage. So, this now gives you a ship with 42,350 hit points at Tier 7, a cruiser with that many hit points. Your turrets now turn in 25 seconds. And you now have a 20% chance of causing a fire on your target with the Fire Flags and Demolition Expert. Your torpedoes now do, I am blind, 24,112 hit points of damage, which is insane for a cruiser to have torpedoes this good. And now your maneuverability, you have an 8.1 second rudder shift time, which is, again, fantastic. Oh, and your top speed is 37.3 knots with the speed flag equipped. And now your concealment's down to 11.2 kilometers. And you have 3 charges of your reload booster, 3 charges of a heal. You get 4 charges of your fighter, 4 charges of hydro or DFAA. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pop into battle. I'll meet you guys there with my voiceover review of the Maya. Alright guys, voiceover Mountbatten here. So the Maya, we played her quite a bit on stream last night, both in randoms and in ranked. The ship performed exceptionally well in ranked battles when it was, of course, always top tier. And one of the most glaring issues was brought to light when we were playing her in random battles on stream, and this is something you should understand before you decide to pick up the ship one way or another, is that this is a tier 7 ship. And the way matchmaking is, I was in tier 9 games almost constantly in this thing last night. I think we had a handful of straight up tier 7 games that weren't in ranked. So do consider that before I tell you this next part here. This is a ship I would say is worth picking up. But you have the Otago too, which is at tier 8, which the Otago has, you know, better heal, has better concealment, better range at tier 8. And it's all around a better ship for its tier at tier 8 than Maya is at tier 7. I'm not saying that Maya is a bad ship, but I'm just saying, like, the Otago already exists. And if you like what I'm about to talk about here and show off here with the footage in the background, Otago does everything that the Maya does, but better in my opinion, except maybe the AA for its tier, but again, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But it is a ship I would say is worth picking up, especially if you like how the Otago plays. But let's go ahead and get into it. So the armor layout, again, like I said in the port section, if you play the Otago, any of the Japanese cruisers, there shouldn't be anything surprising to you here. You eat weird citadels, especially those shells that would normally nick your stern in any other cruiser and go straight on through an overpin. Those, of course, cause random citadels in the Maya. Again, if you played the Otago, you know what I'm talking about here. So it's not a cruiser you're going to sit there and tank with at all. Survivability overall gets pretty low marks, of course. Again, if you play Japanese cruisers, you know what I'm talking about here. This isn't a ship you want to tank in. You don't want to get shot in this ship. Now, her guns are fantastic. That fire chance and that good HE alpha is excellent, absolutely excellent for dealing with enemy battleships and enemy DDs, and of course enemy cruisers that give you time to sit there and chew on them. I had games where I had like 15 fire starters in Maya. It was fantastic. And that is especially helpful when you're constantly getting up tier to tier 10. Because that means you have a very, very good set of guns for dealing with tier 9 ships. I think I said up to tier 10. You get up to tier 9. You get up to tier 10 in this thing, you're doing something exceptionally wrong. But when you get up to tier 9, you're going to be starting fires on tier 9 ships, no problem. You're going to be burning down FDGs and Iowas and Jean Bars left, right, and center. You won't have a problem with that, which is great because when you get up tiered, you get that boost to your economic income. So I had, I think the first 2 matches we had were like solid tier 9 games, and I was one of like 2 tier 7 ships. And I came in first on the team in my first 2 games in the Maya, in tier 9 games. Yeah, that's how good this ship is. So you're actually not in that bad of a shape when you get up tiered when it comes to the gun department. The only thing that's lacking is the range. You have a 15.3 kilometer range, and since it's a tier 7 ship, you don't have access to the last upgrade module to where you could get a little bit more range out of the gun. So that is a falling off point for me. It's unfortunately pretty frustrating when you have ships that are like 16 kilometers away and you feel like you have little T-Rex arms and you can't get out there to get them, especially with the amount that you get up tiered to tier 9 here. And there's another stat here that they could have tweaked that would have made up for this, but they didn't. So in tier 9 games, you can perform when you can get in range. I'll put it like that. And in tier 7 games, 15.3 kilometers, it's definitely enough. In tier 8 and tier 7 games, you're not really hurting for range here, and it does her job well. Again, good HE alpha, good fire starting chance. The AP, I wouldn't really use it, again, like with all of the Japanese cruisers, unless you have a flat broadside of something you know you can Citadel. If you're not sure you can Citadel, just load HE and burn the thing down. And the reload booster does come in pretty useful here in many a scenario. What I try to do for most of the night is I would try to start a fire with the gun without the reload booster, of course, especially on like a battleship. Start a fire, hit the guy, damage cons the one fire, wait 10-20 seconds, fire again, pop the reload booster, get 3 quick salvos on him, set 2 or 3 more fires, and just burn the man down. It's great for that. It's also good for dealing with DDs too. The Otago was already really good for dealing with DDs without the reload booster, but with the reload booster, you can get 3 quick shots off on most enemy DDs, especially when you're at tier 7, you're top tier. Like, if you get a DD in Hydro and you got your reload booster up, they're dead. There's not a lot they can do about it. They are deceased. It's great. It's a gimmick, but it's a gimmick that works very well with the ship's set of skills. Alright, the torpedoes. The torpedoes are fantastic on this thing. Now, like I mentioned in the port section, you can't stealth fire like you can with the Otago. Again, like, it's not like you're stealth firing by like 2 or 3 kilometers of the Otago. It's literally 100 meters. But it could still do it. You can't do that here in the Maya, but it's great for those, well, I'm going down, I might as well throw my torps at him. I did that like 3 times in the stream last night, and it worked every time. We'll give them both sets. He switched to HE, but it's still going to kill me. Okay, we got both sets out, though. And they're very fast torps. We might have him here. Then the Western can worry about the New Mexico. There we go! We got him. Probably going to go down. We get torps off on this fella. Okay. We should be good, though. We have 2 caps, and the Shrun should... He's either going to die to my torps. God, look how fast those torps are. They're so good. The fact that the man typed sorry. Oh, man. Oh, that's too good. Again, torps that do 24,000 damage, traveling at 76 knots. And that's without me building into their speed. You can build into the speed and get them very close to 80 knots. Which is scary. And again, you're running into Tier 7, Tier 8 battleships a lot. 2 torpedoes are enough to kill most Tier 7 battleships that are, you know, by the time you death charge them, they're probably down to like 2/3 of their health. More than enough to deal with them. And the good thing is that they're powerful enough to deal with Tier 9 battleships. And like you might be seeing on screen here, the angles are good. This is a Japanese cruiser that you don't have to show perfect broadside to get your torpedoes off on. I didn't know these were allowed to exist. Look at these torpedo angles. They're great. Look at all the room you got to shove these torpedoes out on your ship with. They're wonderful. So, they may seem useless being at 8 kilometers, but they're very, very, very useful. It's again, a lovely set of torpedoes that work when in a lot of scenarios I didn't think they were going to work well in. Again, when you have torpedoes flying darn near 80 knots, anything's possible. Alright, the AA, which this ship was supposed to be an AA ship in real life and in game, it's kind of supposed to be, because again, it does have more AA mounts than its fellow Tier 7 Japanese cruisers, but those ships, you know, they're AA so terrible that they're pretty much considered to not have AA. I didn't run DFA, of course. I ran Hydra. Hydra's a lot more useful in most situations, you know, for hunting down DDs and smoke and trying to avoid torpedoes and the like. But even if you had DFA on, I don't think this would be like a plane shredder. Against Tier 6 CVs, it was doing well. I wouldn't say, you know, absolutely denying the enemy entry in the airspace over you, but my first game, Graf Zeppelin, was the CV on the enemy team. Dude didn't care about my AA at all. And that's like Graf Zeppelin. Her planes are fairly weak, like some of the weakest planes at Tier 8. And he didn't care at all about my AA. Sure, if I had DFAA on, he might have cared a little bit more. I might have taken a couple more squadrons with me, but the guy just kept flying over me, kept me spotted most of the match, and I had to dodge to my heart's very much displeasure with some high blood pressure trying to perform well on stream the first match in a new premium ship. Yeah, so it doesn't have great AA. I wouldn't really build into it despite its history. Which, ironically, it built so much into AA, but then it got sunk by submarines in the Battle of Leyte Gulf in real life. So, yeah. Maneuverability, 37.3 knots is a very high top speed for a Tier 7 cruiser, and this rudder shift time with the build that I have on it is an absolute godsend. Like I said when I was talking about the armor survivability of the ship, you don't want to get hit. The great thing is, you can avoid being hit with this 8.1 second rudder shift time. You have such a maneuverable ship here at the Maya. It is fantastic. We were juking all night last night, dodging shells from across the map from battleships, dodging torpedoes. It's fantastic. Again, just like the Otago. American battleships, they don't have a chance in hell of hitting you if you're paying attention. I lived so long against, I think it was a Colorado last night on stream. It was hilarious how good the ship is at dodging. Again, just like the Otago. Concealment, this is the skill I think they could have toned down a little bit more to compensate for its range, especially, again, knowing that this ship's going to get double up-tiered a lot. I think if they would have toned it down to like a 10.5 or a 10-kilometer flat detection range, this ship would be absolutely fantastic. But unfortunately, it only goes down to 11.2, which gives you around 4-ish kilometers worth of playing range, where you can, you know, have some concealment with your main battery guns reaching out a little bit further past it, which the Atago has plenty of. There's plenty of range between your detection range and your main battery gun range. That's one of the Atago's strongest suits. You can, of course, sneak into a place, fire your guns, and then choose to disengage essentially at your will, because again, you have like a 9.9 kilometer concealment range with the Atago with a full build. The Maya doesn't get that, unfortunately, so you're not as stealthy as the Atago in a ship that gets double up tier to tier 9, a very painful up tier. So I wish they would have toned that down a little bit. But overall, I would say this is a ship that's a good pickup if you don't have a Atago. But on the other hand, I would also say, well, if you don't have a Atago, go buy a Atago. Because a Atago is better than this ship. Not saying that this ship is bad, because a Atago is like one of my top 5 premiums in this game overall, as it's been number 2 and 3 in several of those lists that I've made. It's a very, 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 very good premium, the Atago. And the Maya, since it plays very, 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 very similar to the Atago, is also a very, very, very good premium. But I wouldn't recommend it over the Atago. So if you don't have the Atago and you're watching this video, go get the Atago if you like what you see here. It doesn't have the reload booster, it doesn't have the insane torpedoes, but overall it has a better set of guns, better range, better concealment, and will get you more consistent results. And it's a much better placement in matchmaking being a tier 8 ship rather than being a tier 7 ship. Because tier 8's getting up to tier 10, they cope a lot better with that than tier 7s being up tier to tier 9. And plus tier 8s don't have to deal with super ships too. Not like tier 7s do either, I'm just saying that as well. Currently they don't have to deal with super ships. That could change in the future. But yeah, if you like the Atago and you have the Atago, is this worth picking up? I would say so, because you do get a bit better of a farming tier 9 ships in the Maya. And if you already have the Atago, and if you're good in the Atago, you can probably do fantastically well in the Maya as well. The torpedoes and the reload booster are almost enough of a mix-up to make it worth it if you already have the Atago. It's kind of a side grade to the Atago, I guess. You could look at it like that. But I wouldn't say they're enough to warrant buying the ship outright if you already have the Atago. And you might like the Atago, but you're not a huge fan of her. You know? Other than that, I'd say, again, if you got the Atago, no real need to pick up this ship, but I wouldn't say don't pick it up. It's a pretty darn good ship. It just gets really shattered by matchmaking at this moment. Overall, I'd give this ship an 8 out of 10. The pros being the good guns, good dispersion, good Japanese HE Alpha, insane torpedoes. These torpedoes do so much damage and are so useful. The reload booster is a nice way to farm damage and also absolutely murder other DDs. Again, if you have something within Hydro and you got your reload booster up, that DD's dead. And again, it does have Hydra or DFAA depending upon how you want to play the ship. It's down... Oh, and the torpedo angles. I almost forgot. The torpedo angles are amazing for a Japanese cruiser. The downsides being it's got 11.2 kilometer maximum concealment, 15.3 kilometer maximum range, and it does sit up a little bit higher up out of the water than the Atago does, because they did remove the third turret, so the ship sits higher up, so you get a couple more citadel shots that you probably wouldn't get in something like the Atago. And it does get stuck with tier 7 matchmaking, which is, again, absolutely abysmal at the moment. So that's my Maya review, guys. Let me know what you guys think about her in the comments down below.
Okay. So there you go, folks. The general consensus is that for a tier 7 Japanese cruiser, it's a good cruiser. If you're going to be up tiered against tier 8 and tier 9, especially tier 9, you're going to have an issue with it. That we understand. What I don't understand is they put out a tier 7 Japanese premium cruiser with 15.3 kilometer range. And not too long ago, the Tulsa, tier 9, supposed to be American heavy cruiser, with a 14.7 kilometer range at tier 9. Like, give me a friggin' break. You guys are wargaming are not consistent. Just not friggin' consistent. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a bit of a break. We're going to set up. I'm not sure if we're going to do a gameplay or a video game. So one way or another, we're going to be doing something. So sit tight. We'll be right back, folks. Okay, folks, let me know in chat. What do you want to see? Want to see a video on the Conqueror done by Potato Quality, or do you want to look at gameplay of the Tulsa, the Tier 9 that I'm comparing to this Maya that we just showcased? What would you like to see? Which would you prefer? We can do gameplay Tier 9 Tulsa, so we can compare it to what we had just witnessed with the new Premium Maya. Or we can look at a video by Potato Quality where he's explaining the Conqueror And the title of his video was The Beginning of Bad Game Design, which I'd be curious to see what he means by that. So if you don't mind, let's look at the potato quality in the Conqueror before we pivot to the Tulsa, okay? Gotcha, lads.
Is a tier 10 battleship that I very rarely play. So today I'm going to take a look at it on YouTube. I think this ship is probably the original problem ship for me, where I started to question the direction of this game. And I'm not just going to only talk about that. The Conqueror is a really good ship. Honestly, the HE on this ship is unbelievable. It suffers from slightly poor dispersion, where ships like Montana with a similar set of 12 guns that don't have 30 millimeters of overmatch, right, 406 or 419, you know, basically the same in the game, considering they have the same overmatch values relative to the cruisers and some of the battleships around them. So realistically, pretty similar ships, and yet the Conqueror has this incredible HE power, where it's got much higher alpha and fire chance, which honestly means you're going to be spamming HE, and you're going to see me do this pretty much exclusively this game. The armor piercing is actually pretty good too, but in comparison to the HE, just much less consistent. And consistency is nice to have when you can shoot at a super battleship doing 15,000 damage and a double fire. And yeah, by the way, we're already nearly at 50,000 damage. So the Conqueror really is designed to farm these battleships. But the reason the armor piercing is somewhat interesting, at least, is it has shorter fuses. So when the shell arms on a piece of armor, the Conqueror shell will explode sooner, meaning you're going to get less overpens on some of those light cruisers. So into a ship like a Smolensk, maybe you'll get a Citadel where Montana wouldn't. But other than that, really this ship is down to its HE power and this heal. You'll notice in the bottom left corner there next to my HP bar, the amount of healing I can potentially have is 43,000. Yeah, so even though the Conqueror has a lower HP pool, worse armor, it tends to be a pretty good tank and a very difficult ship to take down, especially considering it's so good at range still, as we're able to light another fire on this poor Hanover. It's a weird ship. It really is. If we're going to talk about the problems of it, I think we have to really see what ships have been in the game up to the point of Conqueror's release. We have the entire standard American and Japanese tech trees, so, you know, not including Vermont or Worcester, those kind of lines, but the standard ones. Harugumo's not in the game either. I should definitely mention that as well. We can then get Hindenburg, Kaba, Moskva, Kurfürst, Minnow, Z-52, Grozavoy, Henry, and then Conqueror. And this is a very different Henry. Old Henry didn't have a reload booster. It was seen as a kind of mediocre ship, actually. Certainly wasn't the powerhouse that it became. And you see where Conqueror kind of doesn't fit the mold. Suddenly, you have a battleship that's not really designed to push and tank, like potentially a Montana, Kurfürst, or even Yamato is. Yamato's a bit of a sniper, but it has the armor to tank, at least into that old classic meta. And then the Conqueror comes out, and it's really not a good tank because the poor armor, and that it relies on tanking through healing, meaning you have to get through your heals. So it's really not fitting the meta there. And the other thing is, battleships up to this point, solely AP focused. Most people are never swapping to the HE. This is back when full pens on destroyers were a thing. Pretty glad they got rid of that, although I wish they had managed to give battleships a few more tools into destroyer YOLOs, but 20,000 damage at 15 kilometers out of a Montana into a gearing wasn't the most balanced or fun experience, so I'm glad they got rid of it. But this HE was just out of left field, in my opinion. The Conqueror could have been an entire line of Warspites. Warspite tier 6 battleship, very strong armor piercing. It was slow turret traverse, but had decent overmatch and very good accuracy. It would be like if Thunderer did not have really good HE. That would be kind of the equivalent, I would say. And I was hoping for a line of that. And then we got these HE spammers. And that was a really weird thing. And honestly, for me, where I feel like the direction of this game shifted very much away from pretty laid out and standard roles for cruisers, destroyers, battleships. And suddenly we're getting the idea that all we're doing is farming damage with high explosive into battleships. And that's what I'm doing this game, because, I mean, that's what Conqueror's role really is. Your goal is to just farm as much damage out of these battleships as possible, and every once in a while take a shot at a cruiser that's out of position, or potentially help your destroyers win some fights with the HE. And I really do think that the Conqueror idea might have been signifying some of the issues with the development of this game, where there's not really clear direction for each class, and moving some of the classes in between one another, the lines get a little blurred here. Conqueror plays a lot like just a big heavy cruiser, right? And then we're going to get later on, of course, into some ships that are cruisers that play a lot more like battleships. Way later on, right? Like with Petro and with Stalingrad, right? There's some pretty interesting crossovers there. And I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not, but maybe if there's a few more defined roles, potentially we would have a more interesting pushing meta and less of this sniping with HE at 20 kilometers meta. That's what I would like to think, but I'm sure there would have been other things to come up. But Conqueror in 2022 is still really, really good. It still is that original HE problem ship, in my opinion. And I don't get as much enjoyment out of it compared to playing a Montana and landing that perfect, devastating strike salvo. But every once in a while, these fires are pretty hilarious in how much damage I can really rack up so quickly with this HE. But if you're thinking of a battleship to get in 2022, and you're not particularly interested in some of the more armor-piercing, pushing-focused ones, you like to play at the back, you like to use HE, or maybe you just want to hang out and have an easier time of things, Conqueror is really nice for that. You really don't have to switch the ammo type, and the damage output is pretty ridiculous from the back of the map here. Even if you have the special commander, you can get an insane reload here on the Conqueror. When we get a Witherer with this commander, our reload is buffed significantly. So we're getting into that 22, 23 second reload with very little adrenaline rush used. A very good tactic with the Conqueror is to run adrenaline rush and then, you know, take a bit of damage early game. Farm up some of that adrenaline rush. It's very easy to stay at half health or even a little below half health, giving yourself an over 10% reload buff, since you can always push your heal button and heal back 43,000 HP if things get a little bit stressful. That's often a very good thing to do in the early game. This game, I actually didn't end up taking all that much damage, but we still managed to get a pretty insane result. The other thing to notice about the Conqueror, and really a lot of the other ships in the line too, is the turret traverse is horrible. Just look at how slow this is. Montana, much faster turret traverse than this, and it's something to constantly be thinking about pre-turning your turrets. You'll notice, even though there were ships to shoot at down in the south, I was pre-turning my turrets for this vampire when he would show up, since I knew he would probably be flanking. And yeah, that's what, 11,000, 12,000 damage from the HE? It's pretty devastating into destroyers, assuming the shells land. And that's really what it comes down to with Conqueror. The armor piercing is decent, but why would I switch away from this amazing HE ammo, which can devastate destroyers, cruisers, battleships, everything that comes into contact with this HE is going to take a huge amount of alpha and probably get lit on fire. As we dodge these torps, it's going to be leading into the end of this game, just a few shots to catch on the Conqueror yet. The shells do admittedly tend to float a little bit at range, so hitting targets at these longer ranges is pretty difficult, and even the dispersion gets quite a bit worse at these ranges. In fact, so much worse that in a little bit of testing for optimizing things in past Kings of the Seas, we actually tested whether or not it was better to run a Conqueror or an HE Montana firing at bow in Moskva type ships at about around 20, 23 kilometers, that kind of thing, at super, super long range. Which one will do more damage with HE? And we actually found that, on average, Montana is going to do a better job than a Conqueror with HE at those ranges into a bow on island hugging Moskva, for example. This was a while ago, so it was mainly down to Montana's ability to hit more shells. Conqueror just doesn't have the good dispersion at these longer ranges, and it really shows even in these random battles where this Conqueror on the enemy team, we definitely do some good damage to him, but it's really because our shells just happen to land along his entire ship. The dispersion really isn't all that good. So playing that mid-range is very useful. This ship is very much a 15 to 18 kilometer ship. It excels in that area, and the very good concealment certainly helps there too. It's that 12, 13-ish kilometer concealment makes it very easy to play mid-range and be quite successful. We end up with 220,000 damage, all of that coming from HE, and the vast majority of that coming from battleships. Certainly the goal is to burn down battleships, and Conqueror does it very well. So while it's not my favorite ship in the game, certainly not my favorite tier 10 battleship, it doesn't mean it isn't extremely good. And if you're looking for a strong, easy to play tier 10 battleship, you can't really go wrong with Conqueror. You'll notice I am using Gunfeeder, because sometimes there are good opportunities to swap to the armor piercing, but mostly spamming HE tends to work out pretty well. I'm running Vigilance, and that's primarily down to how important this healing is for the Conqueror. Taking torpedoes basically is not healable damage, and when tanking and my ability to stay in the game is all based around the ability to have these massive 42,000 HP heals, taking torps is a really, really bad idea. So much so that I actually give up Grease the Gears for it. That's how important I think Vigilance is. And you could probably run Grease the Gears and be just fine, but in the games where I potentially could be taking more torps, where I need to tank more, I find it more useful to run Vigilance than to have the slight bit of bonus to my turret traverse. Personally, I feel like I can play around the poor turret traverse and pre-turn my turrets a lot of the time, but if you're struggling with that, Grease the Gears is a solid option as well. If you're wondering what I'm going to go with next, I might actually go with improved repair party readiness, since this ship's HP is pretty low, so getting this bonus percentage is pretty easy to do, and since we rely so heavily on our heals, it'd be very nice to reduce the amount of time it takes to get into them. Of course, Adrenaline Rush I do believe is much more important, and then the standard battleship upgrades after that. As far as the equipment goes, yeah, we're running Reload, running Prop Mod to try and juke some shells at longer ranges. I'm running Concealment System, and of course Accuracy as well. Pretty standard. There's really not much point, at least for me, seeing this damage control system mod too, since fire damage is completely healable, and this specialized repair teams is a little bit good at healing back that fire damage. You'll notice the reload time though, 76 seconds. So keep in mind, in that time when you've just used a heal, you are vulnerable to dying. It's very easy to die in that 70, 80 second range between heals. The ship is not that tanky outside of its repair party. But that is the Conqueror. Let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. Hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Okay, you guys want to switch to a Conqueror gameplay just to see how we can do with her? What do you think? What do you guys think, eh? I said I'd like to look at something a little bit differently right now. And this is the 5 must-have premium ships. So this was put out on April 14th of this year by Sea Lord Mountbatten. So let's see what he says. What are the most interesting 5 most must-have? So that's the 5 must-have premium ships. Let's check it out. And while we're doing that, I think I might change the captain build on the Conqueror Captain I have, which I alternate between that and the Thunder at the moment. So let me know what you think in the comments sections, folks. Comments section. Without further ado,
Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today I'm bringing you guys an updated top 5 must-buy premium ships list. Now, what I mean by must-buy, I mean that if you ask me, hey, what premium ship should I pick up, I would definitely direct you to one of these 5 ships. All these ships are well worth the either doubloons, dollars, or coal that you need in order to acquire these ships. These are some fantastic ships, and if any of these sound like they might suit your playstyle, you might enjoy any of these ships, I would recommend you guys pick it up if you are in the market for a premium ship. Now again, like the previous top 5 video, all these ships are currently available. There are some ships that I would recommend you maybe take a chance on getting either in a certain event or in the Santa container event. These are not them. You can all go to the premium shop or to the army right now and acquire these ships right now. So that's another qualifier to get into this list. And if a ship isn't on this list, that doesn't mean it's bad or anything. I tried to will it down to 5. There's a lot of very good premium ships out there right now, some of which I talked about beforehand, but these are just the 5 that I would recommend at this very moment. So let's go ahead and get on into it. Coming at number 5, we have the Tier 8 Premium Japanese Heavy Cruiser, the Atago. So the Atago is one of the, if not the oldest premium ship in the game. She originally replaced Kitakami, which was that horrible abomination of a ship that has something like 40 torpedoes back in the day. She replaced her. Those that had Kitakami were given an Atago as compensation for it, and what a good compensation it was. So, the Atago has those amazing Japanese cruiser guns with high HE alpha and high fire chance and very high accuracy. I mean, if you look at the accuracy that you're seeing on screen here, when I miss, it's my aim. It's not the dispersion from the Atago. The shells do quite literally go where you point with the Atago. On top of that, too, she has great concealment at 9.3 kilometer concealment full build, which means you can stealth torp in the Atago because your torpedoes go out to 10 kilometers. Now, the torpedo angles aren't that great, but actually for the Japanese cruiser tech line, they're actually not that bad. But you get those 10 kilometer torps, a very nice concealment level there, and she's incredibly nimble as well. She has a good rudder shift time even if you don't build into it. If you do build into it, I believe you can get the rudder on the Atago down to something crazy like 3 seconds, which is insane for a ship that has a 9.3 kilometer concealment range with a 3-second rudder shift time. On top of that too, she does get hydro and a catapult plane. So you have all this just excellence in one ship. Now the ship is a little squishy, as I'm sure most of you that have played against Atago have come to find out, but I mean with a 3-second rudder shift time if you build into it, or even just a 6-second rudder shift time that the ship comes with stock, you can more than avoid most of the shells that are being fired at you. And if you're a player that cares about stats, she's an excellent PR farm. If you do like 48,000 damage in this ship, I think that's like Unicum levels in the Atago, because the ship's been out for all eternity. They give the ship away so much in promos and such that many a new player get this ship, so the ship's stats are just completely in the gutter. So if you really do care about stats, the Atago is a great ship to pad your stats with, on top of being a very good premium all in all. Alright, going on down to number 4, we have the Tier 6 Premium British Battleship, the Warships. So the Warspy, this ship is gotta be getting close to, 4 or 5 years old now, with how long she's been out in the game. This is a fantastic, fantastic battleship. So she's at tier 6, and she has 15-inch guns at tier 6. With very, very, very good accuracy, especially for a tier 6 battleship. And she is a British battleship, but she gets normal AP. Normal battleship AP. Now, if you played the Queen Elizabeth, you do know that even with the British battleship AP, those 15-inch guns hurt. But with the Warspite, with normal AP, shoo, you don't have that short fuse time, and you can absolutely punch the crap out of other battleships at your tier. So she's kind of like a Yamato at tier 6. I mean, again, 15-inch guns at tier 6, you can overmatch every single battleship's bow armor that you see. You know, with the exclusion of a few that do have icebreaker bows and such, but still, your guns pack one hell of a punch. Now, the turrets are very similar to Yamato too, in that they have a 60-second 180 time before you build into them, so again, it's very Yamato-ish here. And you do get the improved heal with the Warspite as well. And you may hear me refer to ships that get improved heals, so heals that heal a little bit more damage than a normal heal does, as a ship having a Warspite heal. Warspite was the first battleship to get this improved heal. It helps make up for her rather squishy armor, which is very, very squishy, as I'm sure you'll see in the footage in the background too. Another good thing about Warspite is that she's very capable of holding her own in tier 8 games, which is very, very, very good, because you get that increased economic income for doing damage to ships that are 2 tiers higher than you. If you don't know, when you get up tiered, let's say you're in the Warspite and you fire and hit a tier 7 battleship, you get a 0.2% increase to the amount of credits and XP that you earn by damaging that ship. And when you see tier 8 ships, you get a 0.5% boost. So it's very good for farming credits and XP. Not as good as some other ships that I mentioned last week, but she still is quite a good ship at doing it as well. Oh, also, the Warspite can turn on a dime. She's one of the most maneuverable tier 6 battleships. Don't get me wrong, she bleeds speed when she turns, but I mean, like, look how good this thing can turn when I have to turn. She's very, very, very good for that. Alright, moving on down to number 3, we have the tier 10 French cruiser, the Marceau. So the Marceau is a Kleber with smaller guns, and she has a much better sustained rate of fire than Kleber, which is crazy when you see how many shells this ship can put down range. You can keep this up for the entire game. You don't have to depend upon the reload booster like the Kleber does. So on top of that too, you get the French engine boost, which means you are a stupidly fast DD, rocket and rolling above 50 knots. That's incredibly hard for ships to shoot at, especially battleships, and, well, essentially any ship that doesn't have, like, Soviet levels of shell velocity. It's pretty difficult to hit this thing at range too. And of course you get the French damage saturation mechanic. Well, the French DD saturation mechanic. I wish the French cruisers got this mechanic too, to where the sections of the French DD saturate faster, which means that effectively they take about half the amount of damage that they're supposed to. Doesn't get a heal, which does suck being a tier 10 DD, but I mean, does get the saturation mechanic. That kind of makes up for it. So this is a great ship, a very fast ship, great for flanking an enemy team and absolutely harassing their ships. And this is a very good DD in the hands of a very, very, very skilled DD player. That this ship is one hell of a pain to deal with. It's great in clan battles, it's great for CODs, it's great for ranked. Anything competitive, Marceau is a great option, and she's just downright good for random battles farming as well. Even in the hands of someone like myself, I'm not a very good DD player, I can still do quite well in the Marceau. And she's a coal ship. So this ship is completely free. You just have to be a little good Warships player and open up your 3 daily containers and choose coal. And within a few months, you have a Marceau completely for free just by doing that. That's not even talking about doing things like ranked and missions and such to get extra coal. So again, completely free ship here, and absolutely one of the best DDs in the game, let alone one of the best ships in the game as well. Alright, moving on down to number 2, we have the tier 10 Italian heavy cruiser, the Napoli. So the Napoli, you guys should be very familiar with this ship. I've mentioned this ship several times on this channel, and she's still an absolute blast to play. So the Napoli, she has an amazing armor layout for a cruiser. This is an incredibly, incredibly tough cruiser. In this game you're watching right now, I didn't have any spotting on this side, so I had to push up, and turns out it wasn't the best idea ever. And I do eat dirt, but I mean, for a cruiser, at the end of this game, y'all, I had, I think, over 3 million potential damage done, if not at least 2.8 million potential damage, which that's a lot for one cruiser to take, and most of it was shells bouncing off of the Napoli's armor. She's got some great armor, especially given the amount of 40-57mm guns that we have now at tier 10. And you also get great Italian AP on her 254mm main battery guns. These guns slap at close range, especially if you can sneak around and catch a broadside BB. Oh my god, you are going to chunk the living crap out of him, especially considering that, again, you're a cruiser. On top of that, too, she gets sap secondaries with quite literally the best secondary accuracy in the game. And the way that it works now on cruisers, as I'm sure most of you know, since the Commander rework, you can't build into secondaries anymore via the Commander skills. You can build into them with the modules, but you can't with the skills anymore. So what Wargaming had to do was just give this ship the best secondary accuracy in game, and then you throw the modules on top of there too, and that makes it even better. And these SAP secondaries are great for tearing DDs, and light cruisers are a new one. These are the 90mm secondary guns that most of the Italian battleships get, but the Italian battleships, except for the Giuseppe Verdi, they fire HE. These fire SAP, which means they pin a lot more than those HE 90mm secondaries do, so they're a lot more useful. They will rip apart DDs, they will rip apart lightly armored cruisers, and even some of the more lightly armored battleships. You won't have a good day running into the Napoli. On top of that, too, she gets the exhaust smoke generator that the Italian cruisers get, which means that you can literally just pop smoke and run away. Or what I like to do is pop smoke when the enemy is being spotted within secondary range. Don't fire your main battery guns, and just let your secondaries chew on them. And if there's no radar or hydro within your within range of you, they can't do anything. I mean, they can try and blind fire, of course, but without being locked on, you won't obviously get slapped as hard as you would if they could actually see you. So you just sit there, well, putter along, and let your secondaries chew into them, and again, they're kind of just screwed. It's amazing how much that works, and how often people don't recognize a heavy cruiser-sized smoke screen moving toward them at 32 knots. On top of that, too, you do get the 13-kilometer Italian torpedoes, which are great for denying the enemy a certain flank they're trying to push down, or just shoving in between some random islands where a ship may or may not be coming. It's really surprising to me with the Italian cruisers how often just throwing some random torps can net you a couple of torp hits. And of course, if you have to get in close, you do have the torpedoes to back you up as well. So this ship's an absolute boatload of fun. It's an amazing ship, and just like the Marceau, it's a coal ship. So again, this is a ship that is completely free. Just again, collect your containers, do the missions, participate in ranked in an event here or there, and you'll have the ship in a couple of months. And it's a fantastic ship too. Alright, moving on down to number 1, we have the Tier 9 American abomination, the Kearsarge. The Kearsarge, I mean, this thing's hideous. It's an insult to battleships everywhere, but it's probably one of the best premium battleships in game right now. So the Kearsarge, you get 12 406mm guns with American AP. Like I've talked about before, with American AP gets the improved pins. It hits a lot harder than it should for being a 16-inch shell. But you do have a 36-second reload time, and you do have the 45 caliber guns of the North Carolina, not the 50 caliber guns of the Iowa and the Montana. So that means your shells are almost going backwards through the air with how slow they travel to their target, which means that this ship is very much best played at medium range. You do have a flight deck, but you're not a carrier. You shouldn't be sitting in the back with this ship. You should be as close to the action as you can without being right on the front. So ideally, 12 to 15 kilometers is where you want to be in the Kearsarge. And you might look at the flight deck and think, well, why do I want to do that? They can farm that huge section of my ship. And yes, they can, but the rest of the ship's armor is actually pretty good. So if you use island cover to your advantage, definitely don't go to the open water caps in the ship. Go to the caps that have some island coverage that you can pop in and out of. That way you can avoid eating dirt. You'll be alright, because again, the armor on the ship is actually quite good. So on top of all that, you also get planes, if you haven't noticed. So you get one squadron every 2 minutes, and if you have Halsey or anything that affects the armament's reload time, that does get decreased with those skills. So if you pop Confederate in Halsey, you will have a 90-second reload time on your planes rather than a 2-minute. And unlike carriers, you get another full flight every time your planes reload too. So you can lose all the planes and you don't care. Apparently the Kearsarge is the Navy's plane construction facility because it just builds planes the entire match. It's kinda stupid. And the planes do fire Tiny Tims, which have great pin and great fire chance. It's not uncommon that if you aim the rockets right, you'll be chunking battleships or cruisers for 16k and starting 1 or 2 fires on them as well. Which is kind of nice because of the 36-second reload. Having the planes does give you something to do while the guns are reloading. So this ship's nuts. The damage potential is insane. Again, you have 12 16-inch guns at tier 9 with the American artillery platoon module that gets the dispersion down even more. So yeah, this ship is insane. The damage potential is through the roof. It's super easy to do at least 150k in this ship just about every match. Even this match you're watching right now, which was a terrible match, I think I still did north of like 120k, which again, fantastic. And again, it's a tier 9, you can see tier 10, can get the economic bonus for attacking tier 10 ships, and now it can get the economic bonus for attacking super ships, because I'm pretty sure from what I've tested in game, it is calculated as actual tier 11, so you get the boost for doing damage to ships that are 2 tiers higher than you. So you got that going for you now with the Kearsarge as well. Alright guys, that's my top 5 must-buy premium ships. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below, and tell me what would be your top 5 must-buy premium ships. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm sorry if I sound a little bit funny for this video. The weather's been crazy here. Winter is like going out with a vengeance here in the south, so I'm all clogged up and stuff again, so I do apologize if I sound congested. It's because I am. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. On our way to 35,000 subs. We're getting very, very, very close to that goal, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. And
Okay, we're gonna go live battle. Tier 10 Conqueror, like I said I was gonna do before. So let me know what you think in chat if you have anything to think about. But anyways, so Potato Quality did that video on the Conqueror. So I wanted to change the commander skills on Cunningham. That's why I put this last video on. But here's the deal. When I went to change the commander skills, Wargaming is charging 525 doubloons now. Used to be 400, and now it's 525. That's an over 30% increase. What is it with these birds? They are out to lunch, I tell you. They are out to lunch. They're out of control. And they better be careful. Let's go into battle. Okay, so Tier 10 Conqueror, British BB battleship. Questions, comments, throw in chat. Otherwise, as I've mentioned many, many times before, forever hold your peace. What's a friggin' Dafuk? Is this a new friggin' ship? I don't know what that means. Jingles. Oh shit, what that means there, chaps. Okay, so we're cycling into a battle queue now. Okay. Friggin' submarines. Submarines are broken, folks. I'm gonna do a video on submarines so you can see exactly how friggin' broken they are and how toxic they are for the game. And even with this recent updates to the submarines and stuff like that, they're still missing. I don't know what it is. They just want to keep ramming this stuff down your throat. You know, it's very easy. Just make another friggin'
General quarters.
I'll show as soon as we finish the game exactly what I mean. Okay, so this map, not really much we can do. Let's just see what pops up. We've got an 82,900 hit pool on this ship. Same as the Thunderer.
Awaiting instructions.
Awaiting instructions. Are you led? Oh my.
Enemy force sighted on the horizon.
He's waiting for instructions. Huh, shot down a few aircraft. Wow.
Torpedoes, direct front.
But here come the torpedoes. Where are they coming from?
Hull
From
breach.
those
We're taking on
planes?
water quickly.
Well, we may have to go over to the other side of the map if this is all we're gonna get here. It's gonna just keep coming here.
Problem solved, sir.
Just nothing but friggin' planes, folks.
The ship is on fire. Enemy destroyer sighted.
No, we haven't gotten one fire ourselves. I don't know, folks. Friggin' planes, man. Friggin' planes. Not much in the way of targets here. Hopefully we'll have this cap soon. am I doing with those shells? No wonder I won't get fires with that.
All stations, proceed to capture that area. The ship is on fire!
Okay. That's over 25% of our health just from the friggin' CV.
Problem solved, sir.
Now, CVs are aircraft carriers for the uninitiated.
Enemy battleship sighted. Concentrate fire on the designated target. Enemy destroyer sighted. The ship is on fire!
Holy moly, all these friggin' torpedoes.
Hull breach. We're taking on water quickly.
Friggin' ton of damage just from this aircraft carrier.
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy aircraft carrier detected. Roger. We've spotted an enemy submarine.
Now we got enemy submarines. You got nothing as a defense, buddies.
Problem solved, sir. Our team has taken the lead.
Yeah, these guys just don't get it. These guys just do not friggin' get it.
team has taken the lead.
I don't understand flanking. Flanking's got two sides to it. Freaking lag in this game. Holy crap. That is very strange. An unbelievable lag there. What's going on? What is going on?
The enemy is about to win. The enemy is about to win.
Well, that's an abomination. Guys only understand one flank. Okay, let's try it again and see what happens. Let's go back into battle. Going back into battle. Tier 10 Conqueror. Let's see what we can do here. Hopefully this battle, guys understand 2 flanks are necessary. Especially in random battles. And you got 12 players on each side. Now we got... so the last game I had a friggin' CV all over me. No protection. Nothing whatsoever. Over on the starboard flank. So once it collapsed, nobody on the other side, once they got A, they just kept pushing forward, chasing instead of pulling back and cutting across to get more territory.
General quarters.
It's a balance of territory and damage. These guys just don't get it. So we're on the seaside here right now. Got a Harugano, Des Moines. Same as the last game. CV on the opposite side of the map.
Awaiting instructions. Enemy battleship detected. Concentrate fire on the designated target. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship detected. Enemy cruiser detected. Enemy battleship sighted.
Come on. Holy crap, man.
I need intelligence data. Let's give them a hard time. Nice work. We've spotted an enemy submarine.
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy cruiser detected.
Attention. Reporting a target position.
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship sighted.
All stations, reporting the position of a strategic target. Torpedoes, astern!
Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship detected.
Bring him bugger.
That was a great
Enemy
battle.
submarine in sight.
Awaiting instructions. Awaiting instructions. Airborne. All stations requesting fire on the designated target.
Enemy cruiser detected. Enemy battleship detected.
Airborne. Awaiting instructions. Airborne. Good game, everyone. Awaiting instructions. I need intelligence data. Acknowledged. I need intelligence data. Attention, reporting a target position.
Enemy battleship destroyed. Enemy cruiser sighted.
Friggin' sub around here somewhere. I have no idea where.
Provide anti-aircraft fire support.
Enemy battleship destroyed.
Awaiting instructions. Awaiting instructions. Airborne. I need support. Awaiting instructions. Airborne. Torpedoes to port. Torpedoes to port. Torpedoes astern. We're holding. hold below the waterline. We're flooding quickly. Problem solved, sir. Awaiting instructions. Airborne. Torpedoes astern.
Battle ends in 5 minutes.
Torpedoes astern. Torpedoes astern. Torpedoes to port.
Okay.
Awaiting instructions. Airborne.
Our victory is in sight.
Awaiting instructions.
This friggin' being run around, chased by a sub all friggin' game. Unbelievable.
Awaiting instructions. Awaiting instructions. Airborne.
Our team has taken the lead.
Well, that's the Conqueror, folks. As you can see, friggin' subs are broken. Not much of a counter against them. Their guy came in number 1. You know what you're doing with a sub. You can just do whatever you want, basically. Abso-friggin-lutely. Not much you can do. Okay, we might switch one last game on the Thunder this time. Let's check naval battles. I'm not sure how we're doing here. Well, we got 3 out of 7. Okay, so Japanese got a 2 times bonus. Maybe we'll switch over to that next. Okay. Tier 10 Thunder. Just gonna freshen up my coffee while we're waiting into the queue here, folks. Questions, comments, just throw in chat, please. Unbelievable. A traditional game without a friggin' sub and an aircraft carrier? This is friggin' absolutely marvelous, darling. Marvelous.
Good luck and fair seas. Awaiting instructions.
Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship detected.
Question and comment, throw in chat there, folks.
Autopilot mode enabled.
Okay, I'm gonna head over to the other flank. We've got this flank covered. They're chasing. I'm not gonna get into chasing. Just firm up the other side so we can get more territory, win out in points, secure the game without losing too many guys.
Enemy cruiser sighted.
if we can get a shot in that Benson. The Benson, monsieur.
Concentrate fire on the enemy warship.
Autopilot mode disabled.
Affirmative. Thank you.
We've destroyed an enemy battleship. Off to a great start.
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship detected.
Enemy cruiser foundered.
Negative. All stations, concentrate fire on the target.
We've destroyed an enemy cruiser.
Enemy cruiser detected. Enemy battleship detected. Enemy destroyer detected.
All stations, reporting the position of a strategic target.
Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy destroyer sighted. Enemy battleship
has taken the lead.
Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship detected.
Good game, everyone. Our victory is in sight.
Well, looks like we should have a win here this game, lads. I just need some more damage here. Just need some more damage, lads. More like. Need 80k. It's not going to happen at this rate.
That was a great battle.
Not happening at this rate, buddies. Oh my. Holy moly. Maybe I got a better chance on the other side. Maybe my buddies. Need 80k here, buds. Game over. I don't think we got it, lads. There's not enough ships to kill. Holy moly. There's not enough ships to kill there, folks. Oh, we got containers and all that other wonderful stuff. Oh my. Holy moly. Holy moly. What are you gonna do, eh? So anyways, that's it for today, folks. You got any question, comments, throw in chat. But otherwise, as we've told you before, Bob's your uncle. We're back live tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. New York time. Looking forward to seeing you once more. And hope you had a blast. A blast. An absolute blast. Oh, my. Okay, take care, folks. Love and peace to everyone. All the best. Stay safe, eh?